Reactive training systems.
But if you then kind of program them, let's call it an intro week, where week one of the block is kind of holding back a little bit, maybe RPE wise or something like that. And then you kind of scale into the block and you smooth out that front half, and it just leads to better block responses. That's going to show up in your block reviews. That's going to show up as one of your greatest hits. So when you're preparing for competition, you know that now. Like, well, yeah, I need to do an intro week because that's what I respond best to. And that just kind of becomes part of your training paradigm. But I definitely, let me put it this way. I can't think of any athletes that I'm coaching right now where I program an intro week.
How I kind of think of it is like an intro week is this, it's like a psychological effect is what I feel like. And maybe that also has to go hand in hand with like this type 2 response of, I remember when I actually first started programming intro weeks, my main thought behind it was it's nice to just get to know the layout of the gym when you're doing it. Like there was so much mental utility in being like, okay, this low stress week, this low psychological stress week, I'm just going into the gym. I'm figuring out where all the machines are. I'm figuring out my flow, which for some reason really benefited me. This was like 2 years ago when I did this for myself and for a couple of my athletes. And then slowly it's like you figure out that flow, and then you come into that second week with what I feel like are better expectations for what you can load, which is almost most of the benefit I feel like I've seen from intro weeks is if someone is not sure what they're going to load for, you just come off a block of fives and you're throwing them into singles. What I found is people will like have a really hard time finding where that single is, but an intro week where it's like, hey, we're going to take, maybe 1.5 RPE less on this intro week, just get a baseline down, just throw some coverage down so you have an idea of where these loads are going to take you. And then that second week, I found a lot of good responses to, oh, I know where the single should be, or I know where this set should be, based off of what I did last week. And it's like, oh, it clears up some confusion that I feel like some people have had, which has been a problem that I've noticed with some people is like especially in a static RPE program, just load selection on that first week can be really tricky. And I'm sure you guys have done this like 1 bajillion times, but after you come out of several development blocks of random rep ranges, throwing into singles, and you're like, I have no idea where I'm ending up today. That was me this like last week and the week before. Like I'm hitting singles. I have no idea what's going to be on the bar today. And sometimes an intro week can help smooth that kind of thing out, which I feel like might end up helping with that type 2 response. That speculation.
Well, I mean, I would think about it a little differently. I don't necessarily think about it from a type 2 response sort of level, but I think that you're 100% correct about weight selection in week one being really important. And I kind of think of it like overshooting is particularly costly. Say that the block calls for single at 8 and you accidentally overshoot it and you're single at 8.5. I don't think it's a fatigue thing. I don't. I don't think it's just like, oh, you're tired now because you were half a point higher on your RPE. Uh, But there is something there. There is some sort of momentum cost to it, and you're a little bit on the back foot, and it makes it harder to progress throughout that block. Not that all is lost or anything like that. You can turn it around for sure, but it makes it harder, and you're definitely in not as good of a position at that point. So I've absolutely seen utility in doing that, like doing an intro week, kind of as a structured way to make sure people aren't overshooting. Um, but it's interesting too, because like if you think about it this way, like um, okay, you're going to put in an intro week. Most people's time to peak is 4 or 5 weeks, right? So 4 or 5 week blocks. Make week one an intro week where RPEs maybe half a point, maybe 1 point low, and then in the last week of the block, you're going to kind of things are going good. You've got a lot of momentum built up, so you're going to kind of take the leash off a little bit and let people send it. You know, So now they go 1, maybe 2 RPEs over, so they can kind of feel out what those really high RPEs are, and it's okay because you got a deload coming up, sort of thing. Well, now you've got this interesting wave loading effect that just kind of emerges from the static system. It can work that way. I'd be curious to know if you guys like structure anything that way. Do you like guide people that way? I mean, I've already said, like, I don't really do intro weeks. I don't have anybody that I'm currently doing intro weeks with, but I do encourage people to send it if they feel like sending it on the last week.
Hey, let me tell you something that I know about you. Your lifting is important to you. It's probably one of your biggest priorities. And for people like us, nothing compares to the feeling that you get when you set a new PR. That feeling of being the best that you've ever been, of doing something that you've never done before. This is what we're all after, and it's also what RTS specializes in. Getting you the absolute best program possible so that you can hit new PRs and reach your goals. We call it radically individualized training, and we're really good at it. Whether we need to account for busy schedules or equipment limitations, or precisely turn the dials and get the details of the program just right, we have the tools and the experience to guide your lifting to the next level. To us, coaching is all about leadership, relationship, and creative problem solving. A coach should be poised to help you make tough decisions about training and competing so that you can continually grow in your development. And of course, a coach should be a first-rate problem solver, especially when it comes to your training, technique, and strategy. Now, all this has to be built off of a really strong, professional coaching relationship that emphasizes trust and respect. Additionally, RTS coaches are not on an island. We have a strong network of professionals to reach out to, so if you find yourself in need of some specific expertise, say in the realm of nutrition or injury management or sports psychology, there's a deep expertise available there too. For more information, go to store.reactivetrainingsystems.com and click on coaching. That's store.reactivetrainingsystems.com, then click on coaching. Hope to see you on the team soon.